Hey guys, let's get more news about Dallas, but first, don't forget to subscribe and leave your like. Giants could replace Brian Daboll with Super Bowl-winning NFL coach. The New York Giants lost to the Dallas Cowboys, 21-15, on Thursday, September 26, and even though it was a close game, a loss is a loss. As we head into Week 5 of the 2024 NFL season, some analysts are talking about possible replacement options for Giants head coach Brian Daboll if things go downhill the rest of this season. One name that's being mentioned as a replacement option is none other than former New England Patriots head coach Bill Belichick. In a September 28 feature, NFL analyst and expert Mike Florio of Pro Football Talk says he thinks Belichick, who has won 8 Super Bowls, could land as the new head coach for the Giants, Philadelphia Eagles, Dallas Cowboys, or Jacksonville Jaguars. It's worth noting that Daboll is also a Super Bowl winner, having won the Super Bowl 5 times and a national championship at the University of Alabama. So, his pre-Giants record is solid. Belichick has always had a soft spot for the Giants, Florio wrote. When details of the dysfunction over the handling of Jimmy Garoppolo emerged several years ago, a report surfaced that Belichick would want to coach the Giants when things end in New England. Depending on how the rest of the year goes, the Giants could be making changes. Yet again, John Mara has fired 4 coaches in less than a decade. He added, the possibility of Belichick landing with the Cowboys or the Eagles could be enough to get Mara to pull the trigger, making the guy who once quit as HC of the NYJ the new HC/GM of the NYG. Elsewhere, Florio notes that what he believes will tip the scale for Belichick to sign with a team is to what extent an owner is willing to give contractual, if not de facto, control over the team to Belichick. Florio isn't the only one. In a September 26 piece for CBS Sports, Will Brinson also names the Giants as a possible home for Belichick. The other possible landing spots he names are the Jags, Cowboys, Chicago Bears, and Cincinnati Bengals. Buzz was building before Week 3 about Brian Daboll having locker room issues, Brinson stated. Belichick's coached in New York before. There isn't a quarterback in place, but if the Giants season submarines, they would have a good draft pick with a TBD QB class on deck. John Mara's been extremely, active as an owner in recent years, which could potentially create an issue, but he also allowed Joe Schoen enough leeway to let Saquon Barkley walk into free agency, and given Belichick's history in New York, he'd probably cede control. He added that defensive line under Belichick would be a straight-up problem, and the right offensive hire plus a quarterback plus Malik Nabers, a top 10 NFL wideout 3 games into his career, would be spicy. In a September 29 feature in The Spun, Daboll was also named one of the NFL coaches most likely to go after the season. In the story, writer Chris Rosbaglu noted that, at some point, Brian Daboll will have to take some criticism for the New York Giants' struggles. Not every single issue can be Daniel Jones' fault, especially when the head coach is constantly playing for field goals. Russell Wilson's calf is getting better, but Justin Fields will be the starting quarterback for the game between Pittsburgh Steelers and Dallas Cowboys. Russell Wilson's sore right calf is getting better, but it might not heal quickly enough for him to take back the starting quarterback position from Justin Fields, at least for now. Coach Mike Tomlin mentioned on Tuesday that he expects Wilson to increase his practice workload this week, but Fields is still likely to start for a 5th consecutive week when Pittsburgh, 3-1, plays against Dallas, 2-2, on Sunday night. Wilson, who is 35 years old, hasn't played since he hurt his calf right before the season opener in Atlanta. The Steelers have been cautious with the 9-time Pro Bowler. He felt well enough to participate in throwing drills with the scout team, but it's unclear when he will be cleared to practice fully. We will evaluate his ability to move and function and protect himself, and obviously evaluate his level of productivity, Tomlin said. And we'll let that be our guide in terms of whether we get into serious consideration as we push forward toward game time this week. Tomlin has avoided questions for weeks about whether Fields has done enough to keep the starting job. He did the same on Tuesday, but with slightly less certainty than before. When asked if there's a chance he might stick with Fields as the hot hand, similar to how he handled Mason Rudolph at the end of last season while Kenny Pickett recovered from ankle surgery, Tomlin opened up a bit. "There's a potential for that," he said. "But we're not there as I stand here today. That moment is getting closer, especially if Fields keeps improving." Although Fields made some mistakes in a 27-24 loss to Indianapolis on Sunday, he impressed Tomlin with how he bounced back after a fumble early in the second half. Fields led Pittsburgh on 3 consecutive touchdown drives to bring them back into the game, finishing with 367 total yards, 312 passing and 55 rushing, and 3 touchdowns, 1 passing and 2 rushing. Four-time Pro Bowler returns to practice in time for potential Cowboys, Chargers trade. Cleveland Browns running back Nick Chubb will reportedly start practicing on Wednesday, but will he even play a snap with his current team before they trade him? A healthy version of Chubb is arguably the best player on the roster, as the second-round pick has established himself as one of the game's elite runners while on the field. Since entering the league in 2018, the Georgia product made 4 Pro Bowl teams while recording 6,511 yards and 48 touchdowns on 1,238 attempts, 5.3 yards per carry. Chubb suffered a gruesome injury early in the 2023 season, but he should be back on the field before long. Deshaun Watson news: Eagles sent investigator to Houston amid trade talks. The only problem is that Chubb's arrival might be too little and too late. At 1-3, the Cleveland Browns are already facing an uphill battle to make the playoffs. Deshaun Watson continues to disappoint, as the controversial passer is arguably the worst starting quarterback in football. Put simply, it's impossible to win games with a $230 million liability at the game's most important position, which means the Browns could trade the aging Nick Chubb for the promise of younger, cheaper talent. Assuming the second-round pick can find his old form, the Dallas Cowboys and Los Angeles Chargers could fight for his services. The Dallas Cowboys find themselves 1 game behind the Washington Commanders in what might be the most talented division in football. Dak Prescott and CeeDee Lamb are great players, but this offense needs some extra muscle if they want to take down second overall pick Jaden Daniels and company. The LSU product is taking the world by storm, setting record after record while completing 82.1% of his passes for 897 yards, 3 touchdowns, and 1 interception while adding another 218 yards and 4 touchdowns on the ground. Nick Chubb can't single-handedly match this production, but the trade candidate could play an instrumental role for Dallas down the stretch. The Cowboys might have the worst running back duo in the league. Led by the underwhelming duo of Rico Dowdle and an aging Ezekiel Elliott, Dallas has averaged just 3.5 yards per carry as a team. This must improve, and a Nick Chubb trade could be the way to do it. Owner Jerry Jones believes in the value of the run game, as he used a top 5 pick on a running back in the 2016 NFL Draft and felt comfortable giving Tony Pollard a fully guaranteed $10 million for 1 season of work in 2023. Jones believes running the ball keeps the opposing offense off the field, and a healthy version of Chubb would easily be the best back on this team. For better or worse, Jim Harbaugh's Chargers will live and die with the running game. Justin Herbert is banged up, the wide receivers are nothing special, and the tight ends are non-existent. Los Angeles overcame this early in the season, as one-time Raven J.K. Dobbins dominated opposing teams on the ground. However, the former second-round pick has regressed in a major way, while big-money signee Gus Edwards has been a complete bust. Harbaugh will never give up on his desire to run the ball, which means this team could trade for Nick Chubb. While wide receiver is a bigger need, making a move for a reliable set of hands doesn't mesh with Harbaugh's vision. The former Michigan coach believes the run game is vital to the success of the offense, and a Nick Chubb trade could be the best way to install some life into the ground attack. If he recaptures his pre-injury form, Chubb could do some damage behind a talented Chargers offensive line. And you fan? What do you think of the situation of Nick Chubb? Leave your opinion in the comments.